Talks on the debt, 14 trillion and counting. Both sides still divided. Very little talking over the weekend. Utah Republican Orrin Hatch is the ranking member on the Senate Finance Committee. He was speaking over the weekend on behalf of Republicans, calling for a balanced budget amendment. Senator, and good morning to you. Might be the biggest riddle in the world right now as to what we're going to do. Do you see a path where this is headed that can be passed in the Senate and the House and signed by the president?
Yeah, I can see a path, but it's going to take some Democrat help. And right now, I don't know that there are going to be any Democrats that are really going to help. Now, on the balanced budget amendment, we always get a number of Democrats. In fact, I brought it up twice and almost passed it with 67 votes. On the second time in 1997, we actually had 67 votes going over for the final arguments on the floor. And at the last minute, one of our Republicans flipped off because the unions in his state threatened him, and we lost by one vote. But no, it's possible, and I think it's going to take a balanced budget constitutional amendment to change this.
Nancy Pelosi called that idea outrageous. The president on Friday said we don't need a constitutional amendment to do this. What we need is to do our jobs. To them, you say what? Why is it so important to you? What would it accomplish?
Well spoken by two of the leading liberals in the history of the country who don't want to get spending under control at all. It's important in the history of the country because it's apparent that the Congress just is incapable of living within its means. And we are now $14.5 trillion in debt. I might add Social Security is $11 trillion in debt. Medicare is $38 trillion in debt. Medicaid is almost that bad. And there is no real effort being made by this administration or the Democrats in Congress to try and resolve that problem. And I'm convinced the only way you can resolve it is to force the Congress to have to live within its means like 49 states have to do. 49 states have balanced budget amendments. Most cities have balanced budget amendments. The fact of the matter is they found that that's the only way you can get spending under control. Otherwise, people will keep spending because they get more credit for spending than they do for conserving.
Well, but to get an amendment to the Constitution, it's a high hurdle, as you know, and there's a reason for that.
Well, of course.
I mean, two-thirds in the House, that means you need to get 48 Democrats to vote in your favor. You need two-thirds in the Senate. You need three-quarters of the states to go along with it. How do you stack up against those numbers?
Well, I think that the House will pass it. And there's a real question in the Senate because there are 53 Democrats here. This is the first time in all of the balanced budget amendments I brought to the floor where we actually have every Republican on board, all 47. I think everybody has agreed we simply have to do that. And I might add there's a number of Democrats who I believe will vote for the balanced budget amendment, but we need 20 of them. Look, if we passed it, it would be submitted to the people. You remember the Constitution starts out with we the people. In other words, it would take some time to go to the 50 states, and we'd have to get 38 of them. It would create a great argument in this country, a great debate in this country, something that's long overdue. And if the Democrats are so sure they're right, all they got to do is get 13 states to stop them. Why don't they let the people make this decision rather than keep saying we want to keep spending, we want to keep taxing, we want to keep Washington as the focal point of all spending in our world, really.
We're going to get a measure of this in the House. We'll get an idea as to whether or not, how much steam this have when the cut, cap, and balance measure comes on the floor.
Right.
Say this does not go the way you argue right now. Would you back the plan